Hey guys, just as soon as I said I couldn't find things, I found them because I'm a magical unicorn, or I'm just not as great at looking up things as I thought I was, and I found them. Anywho, this is day one, part two, and there's a little bit more. We will get to meet Patricia Kraft, the caseworker who didn't know nothing, didn't do nothing, allegedly. So we will continue with day two because I am a little bit, especially when it comes to doing things on order. Anywho, let's get this going.
Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor. Thank you.
Yes, Your
Okay. The state may call their next witness.
Your Honor, the state will call Kristen Proctor France.
Please raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And please have a seat. Now, ma'am, there is media here in the courtroom this afternoon. Do you have any objection if they film or photograph your image during your testimony? Okay. Hutchinson, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, if you would, introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for our record.
Kristen Proctor France, Procterfrantz.
Dang
Ms.
it.
France, what is your occupation?
I'm a social worker at Mental Health Medical Center.
Okay. And how long have you been so employed?
5.5 years, 6 years in June.
Okay. Were you employed in social work prior to that?
Yes.
Your employment with SOMC?
I've had my master's since 2011, so master's in social work since 2011, so I've been a social worker for 9 years.
Okay. I'm going to need you to speak up just a little bit so we can hear you back here. If you would explain to the members of the jury what some of your job duties are as a social worker for Southern Ohio Medical Center.
Currently, I'm working in the emergency department, so we do psychosocial assessments on those with mental illness, do substance use assessments on those that come in under the influence of drugs. We do CPS referrals on kids that come in that we need to make referrals on. On the inpatient floors, we do discharge planning, set patients up with things they need, like medical equipment, nursing home placements, that kind of thing. On the maternity floors, we're consulted for various reasons. Adoption cases, moms with history or current substance use during their pregnancy, 3 or less prenatal visits, just anytime the nurses have any concerns regarding the care of the baby with the parents, various other reasons.
So the Groves hit all of those.
See the deputy in the back of the courtroom?
Yes.
Your volume needs to be so he can hear you
Okay.
clear back there. Okay? If you're too loud, no one's going to complain.
Well, maybe if you guys
Let me
had
direct
regular
your
mics
attention to
instead of
January, the time
scarab beetles, we would be able to hear, but just a thought.
frames of January 10th to January 15th, 2019. Were you working as a social worker at Southern Ohio Medical Center at that time?
So working in the emergency department that weekend on January 12th and January 13th.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to receive a referral from the nursery regarding baby Dylan Groves?
On January 13th, I received a call from the nursery stating baby Dylan was ready for discharge and they needed to know what the plan was for discharge. I reviewed mom's medical chart, the documentation from the social worker, the drug screens, the things that we review when social work's involved in a case. I seen that CPS hadn't notified us what the plan was, so I called South County CPS.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. What is the goal of social services at that point?
Make sure the baby's discharged to the safest environment.
Okay. And you said you review mother's medical chart and baby's
Yes.
medical chart, and then any correspondence or notes from other social workers that have been on staff or on shift?
Yes,
Okay. And you said as a result of that, you contacted Children's Services?
yes.
Okay. If you would explain to the members of the jury why you contacted them.
One of the other social workers did the maternal substance use assessment because mom was positive, didn't have prenatal care. So we did the assessment. We made a referral to CPS. The on-call social worker that day was Lauren Johnson. She called me back and said that she had been on the unit for 5 hours on Friday with the father.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. You said you guys do a maternal. Explain to the jury what that is.
We asked their use during pregnancy. Do they have everything they need for the baby? Their mental health history. Are they breast or bottle feeding? Do they have other kids? Do they have prior CPS involvement? Various things like that. Find out their history.
Okay. And are the answers to those questions kept in a medical record or document at the hospital?
Mom's chart under maternal substance use assessment form.
Okay. And was that done in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Let me hand you what's previously been marked as State's Exhibit 4. Actually, State's Exhibit 1. And then ask you if you recognize these exhibits. So we have 1 and 4. to lay him to the side. This microphone feeds into her headset, so if you could be gentle with. All right. You first
Wow.
look at Stacy's Exhibit 1 for identification.
This is mom's medical chart.
Okay, and how do you recognize that as the mother's medical chart?
This is what we review whenever we get a consult on a mom or baby in maternity or nursery at the hospital.
Okay, and is that the format in which all patient medical records are kept?
Yes,
Okay, is there an identifying patient name and number there?
yes,
Okay, and do they
Hmm.
identify as the defendant Jessica Groves?
yes.
Okay. And you said the maternal substance abuse assessment would be in her record, is that right? Can you locate that within that folder?
Okay.
Okay, and if you would explain to the members of the jury what information you're asking for and what information you're receiving in regards to that assessment.
Mary Jo Halter, another social worker at SOMC, did the initial meeting with mom. She asked like where she lives, the father's name, other children, their other children's names and ages, anybody else living in the home, if there's a history of CPS involvement, the history of the father as regarding to substance abuse, domestic violence, mom's substance abuse treatment history, and current use currently or any time during the pregnancy or previously, mental health and psychiatric treatment history, financial legal problems, participation in care with a newborn, bonding with a newborn. We usually get that information from the nursery staff and maternity staff if they have any concerns whatsoever with mom and baby. And then we document our recommendations. In this case, we made a referral to CPS.
Okay, let me take you back to substance abuse history by the mother, reported by the mother. If you would explain to the members of the jury what was reported in her medical record regarding substance abuse.
It says that she says she is done with drugs and doesn't need treatment.
Okay. Why do you guys take that information? What's the purpose of taking substance abuse history?
So we know what the mom's count of her drug abuse history is.
Okay. And does any of that relate to the care of the baby or the safety of the baby as far as
Yeah, so we know if the
social services is
mom
concerned?
has exposed the baby to substance use during her pregnancy.
Okay. And you said that you guys contacted Children's Services.
Yes.
Okay. What concerns?
Yes. So, knowing this case like I do, Children's Services was going to let this baby go home with dad, and the hospital was like, "Hell nah. This is ridiculous." This dad looks strung out too, allegedly, though confirmedly after this trial. But the hospital staff was like, "Are y'all what have y'all been huffing? Because no, we are not sending this baby home with the dad. I don't care if he pinky promises that he's super-de-duper drug-free. He looks ridiculous." And no. So this hospital had to contact Children's Services because they were gonna just like, "Doo-doo-dur," give the kid to the dad because why not?
Concerns did Southern Ohio Medical Center Social Services have in relation to the safety of the discharge of baby Groves?
Mom and baby both were positive at delivery and birth. So we know that if there are two positives during pregnancy or birth delivery, then it should warrant a custody removal of the infant. And we did not feel it was safe for the baby to be discharged home to mom when she was actively using throughout her pregnancy, and the mom and baby both were positive at the hospital.
Okay. And so what efforts did social services make to ensure safe discharge of baby Dylan?
Mary Jo made the initial referral. CPS didn't let us know what their plan was before the weekend. So when I got the call on Sunday, I called CPS to find out what their plan was. Lauren told me that she had been on the unit with the dad for 5 hours on that Friday and safety planned baby to go home with dad, and said that she drug tested him and he was clean, and that he told her that he did not know about mom's drug use during pregnancy.
Okay. Was
What?
social services at Southern Ohio Medical Center satisfied with that discharge?
No. I told her that wasn't appropriate, that we would hold the baby until we got the umbilical cord results were back, because with mom and baby both being positive, it should be an automatic removal. So I told Lauren that, talked to the maternity nurses and nursery nurses, and they agreed that we would hold the baby until the cord came back to confirm the positive drug screens, and let Lauren know that. And then I called my
Yes.
supervisor, Mandy,
Okay.
and discussed it with her.
And what was social services intent in the event that Children's Services did not agree with you?
We would have called juvenile court Judge Lemons. He would have done what he needed to do to make sure the baby was removed because of the positive drug screens.
Okay, so you were not willing to discharge
No.
baby Dylan to Daniel Groves?
No.
You would take
This So, if baby Dylan had been under the care of this social services, he would have stayed with the adoptive or the foster mom because seems like Scioto County Family Services does F all for children. Maybe we should change it to the F all for children society.
We'll take a look at the other exhibit, I believe it's exhibit 4. Identify that for the record.
This is baby Dylan's medical record.
Okay. And if you would, I think there's a post-it note there. If you would flip to that page and explain to the jury what those documents are.
This is where I documented in baby Dylan's chart under the newborn substance abuse assessment form. It's where we document all the stuff after the mom has been moved off the unit. So this is where my notes start and then follow up with other social workers after me.
Okay, and essentially those notes are a summary of sort of what you testified in here
Yes.
about today, what happened at the hospital, how you became involved.
Yes,
Okay, are those a true and accurate representation of what took place out there over that 5-day period?
yes.
If I could have just a second.
This poor lady gets the red chest like I do, and she has blonde eyebrows like I am. Ma'am, I understand. I have lived this life. There is eyebrow tint now, though, so, but you did an awesome job trying to save baby Dylan. So I feel bad for you. Look, I know the anxiety that comes and you get the red chest and it's so uncomfy. But she does look like she wants to cut a heifer, and I would too.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Stratton, you may cross-examine the witness.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Proctor. What was the?
Grants, I got married after just in case.
Dear Lord, could this dude ever smile and be look, guy in the background with the leather jacket is what we are all feeling right now. And then you've got Chuckles the clown up here. For the love of all that is holy. Ugh.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Let's go back to your interactions with Mrs. Johnson. She is what?
She was the caseworker from Scioto County CPS that was on call the same day that I was involved with this case.
Okay. So you had spoken with her and she had drug tested Daniel, is that correct?
That's what she reported, yes.
She reported to you that she has drug tested Daniel. She wanted to send Dylan home with Daniel?
Yes.
That was against your,
Our recommendation from Southern Ohio Medical Center, yes.
now explain that recommendation. Usually typically when or in this situation or similar to this situation, when would you not send a baby home with the father?
When mom and baby both are positive, we don't recommend they go home to the family because dad and mom both are in the house.
Okay. So you've never discharged a family member in a situation like this? I'm assuming that where we're from, we have quite a few of these situations.
We don't make the final decision, but I couldn't say that that's not happened in the past. But in this case, there was active use in the home. Mom and dad are together living in the home. There was nobody else in the home other than a child, so we did not recommend baby go home with.
Okay. At what point would you have recommended it?
In this case,
Never.
no.
Okay.
No
When Mrs.
Chuckles.
Johnson said that she was going to send Dylan home with Daniel, what was your reply to her?
Told her that we did not feel that was appropriate and that I would contact my supervisor and discuss with the doctor, but we would likely hold the baby until the U-Court came back because their issue was the positives on the drug screen said unconfirmed.
Okay. Did she argue with you, give you a hard time about it?
She just said that they can't take those unconfirmed positives as positives. If they would have said just positive, she would have agreed it would have been a custody removal at that time. Because it said unconfirmed, she couldn't say that those were two positives.
So she was wanting to send Dylan home to Daniel without clarifying what was going on.
I guess, yes.
Okay.
Of all the excuse my cursing, dumb fuckery, what are you doing? Also, I love this face. This is a contempt face. This is a try not to curse. I'ma keep it real. But if the flush goes all the way up to my neck, Imma start spitting some truth. Ugh.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Sam.
Thank you. Mrs. Proctor France, you did learn or have a conversation with Lauren Johnson from Children's Services Board that Daniel Groves participated in a drug screen for their agency, and that drug screen was clean, correct?
That's what she said, yes.
Okay.
Because he used his 14-year-old's pee. But no, let's continue. And ma'am, deep conditioner. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there. But I like your necklace.
The hospital did not test him independently, correct? Okay. Did you have any personal discussions or observations of Mr. Groves
No.
himself? Okay. Did you ascertain whether or not Jessica Groves was going to be absent from the home if the baby was sent with him per Children's Services Board's instructions?
She just told me that he was unaware of her drug use and that he safety planned the baby home with that.
And you were not aware of the portion of the safety plan that Jessica Groves would
She said she
stay?
would have supervised visits.
Right, but she would not be residing in the home.
She didn't tell me that.
Okay. Would that have made a difference to you?
No.
I'm not the one that makes the decisions, but
Okay, but you did state in your testimony, though, that it was your policy that you weren't going to send this baby home
It
if
was-
mom was in the home.
it was our understanding that 2 positives weren't automatic custody removal. That's the way it has been in the past up until the point of our labs changing over and the positive going from saying positive to unconfirmed positive. Nothing had changed otherwise on other babies when there was custody removal in that case.
But if you have a parent who's not testing positive for substance addiction, and there is the ability for the other parent who is to stay outside of the home, would that not have been
No, they did not trust these two. But okay, ma'am, I'm sure you trust them.
taken into consideration?
That's CPS decision.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Ms. Scott?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're free to go. State and call the next witness.
State of Ohio will call Mandy Burchett.
And can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Can you please have a seat? Now, ma'am, there is media in the courtroom today. Do you object to your image being filmed or photographed during your testimony?
I do not object.
You do not. All right, thank you. Stephen, you may inquire.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you state your name for the record?
My name is Amanda Burchett. I go by Mandy Burchett.
All right, and how do you spell Burchett?
Burchett.
All right. And are you employed?
Yes, I'm employed at Southern Ohio Medical Center.
What position are you employed in at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I'm the manager of social work services.
What's your educational background?
I have my bachelor's degree in psychology from Otterbein College and a master's degree in social work from University of Cincinnati.
How long have you been at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I began my career there in 1998 and I'm on my 22nd year.
How long have you been the manager of social work services at Southern Ohio Medical?
You can really tell that this is affecting her. I mean, the other people, last witness, Miss France or Proctor France, you could tell she was just irritated. She was mad. This woman looks somewhat devastated. I mean, who wouldn't be? You did everything in your power to save this baby, and the actual bureau that's supposed to save this child is like, meh, whatever. Give him to the dad. We're not going to check to see if Rural King has a 6-month, family leave plan. We're not going to check if, dad's actually using the drug test correctly. No, whatever. We don't care. We aren't going to check up. It's not our job, if you will.
Ohio Medical Center.
I've been in the manager position a year.
Okay. Approximately what was the date that you started? A year from now, so January of 2019?
I started in maybe October of 18.
Okay, so October
A little over,
2018.
yes.
Okay. So in January of 2019, you were already a manager of social work at
Yes,
that
I
point?
was the manager.
Okay. What are your duties as the manager of social work services at Southern Ohio Medical Center?
I manage the day-to-day operations of our department. We have about 28 social workers. I am available to listen to any of the social workers that might have a question about a patient they're working with or a situation that comes up, to kind of brainstorm what we should do or what the right thing to do is, as well as I do also work in the hospital at times as well as a social worker.
So you actually staff some of the schedule as well
Yes.
in that capacity? Okay. What types of situations does your department address at SOMC?
We address anything that involves crisis. We have social workers that work in the ER. Social worker is at the hospital from 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. daily, and we're on call from 2 a.m. until 7 a.m. if there was a need. We deal with psychiatric emergencies, substance abuse situations, child abuse and neglect, domestic violence, and in addition to just discharge planning, which means a person is leaving the hospital and we assure that they have what they need to be able to take care of themselves at home.
In the course of your duties, did you become familiar with the birth of a Dylan Groves?
Yes, I did.
What was your role with regard to this matter?
I was contacted by Kristen Proctor, a social worker, on telling me the situation in which Dylan was ready to be discharged from the hospital on January the 13th. And she was called by the nursery to ask what the plan was because no one had been notified what the plan that Children's Services had in place. The referral had already been made several days prior.
That's where I was going to go. Let me back you up a little bit as to the protocol. In this type of situation, when do you become involved as the social worker department?
Okay, we're automatically consulted on maternity cases for any mother that's had substance abuse during her pregnancy or a history of substance abuse. We see every mom that has 3 or less prenatal visits. In addition to if there's any concerns of maybe a minor being having a baby, any sort of situation that doesn't seem quite right, we just kind of get in there and investigate a little bit.
Okay, so any non-routine family dynamic would be a fair
Yes.
way to say it? Okay. So in this case, when you got involved, the call had already been made to Children's Services.
Correct.
And typically, what's the protocol with the interaction between your agency and Children's Services?
We make the initial referral and we will wait for Children's Services to call us back with what their intent is, or we will call them if we don't know. We also will notify them of any anticipated discharge. In the situation with our NAS babies, we let them know if their Finnegan scores are going up, if we anticipate that they're going to be started on medicine to help with the withdrawals. And that's our typical process.
Okay, and NAS again means?
Neonatal abstinence syndrome.
Thank you. And was there some type of delay with learning what Children's Services plan was with regard to baby Dylan?
There was. The nursery called Kristen Proctor. She was working in the emergency department on that Sunday, and she called to ask what the plan was. She called and spoke with Lauren Johnson at Children's Services and was told that the plan was that they had safety planned it and the baby was to go home with the father.
Was there any concern with this relating of a safety plan from your agency, from your department?
We did have concerns. The concern was that the mother and the baby were both positive for methamphetamine, which in my experience as a social worker at the hospital warrants a removal.
Was there any confusion?
Yeah, it's almost like common sense, but I'm sure DCFS will ignore it.
That you were alerted to with regard to the testing process that SOMC did?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. With regard to the testing, the positive drug test results, was there any confusion or misunderstanding as to those kind of results?
What Lauren told Kristen was that because it was an unconfirmed positive screen, that they could not remove custody.
All right. We've had some nurses testify, but can you explain the nature of an unconfirmed positive test at SOMC?
Sure. And I reached out to Bridget Scott. She's a director of our our laboratory so that I'd have an understanding before this happened, actually. And it means the same. So we typically had positive or negative. That's what it said before they changed the machine. The accrediting board that our lab is accredited by, we had to switch the machine. So when we did that, it says unconfirmed pause, or I might say negative. I don't want to say for sure. It's probably unconfirmed negative. And both of those tests are the same, positive or unconfirmed positive. What the test does when you do a urine drug screen is it detects that there's a substance present. It does not quantify how much or of the substance is present, just that there is a substance present. And then at that point, we will send the urine off to another lab. In this case, it was Mayo Clinic, to quantify it, to break it down so that we know exactly what was in the urine.
Right. So at the point you're talking with Children's Services, you have an unconfirmed positive from baby Dylan and an unconfirmed positive from the mother, Mrs. Grove.
Yes.
And had Children's Services, when did this change in the machine take place to your knowledge?
It changed on November 11th, 2018.
Okay. So before baby Dylan was born.
Correct.
Was this change, was Children's Services notified of this change in the language of the results?
Soon after we noticed the difference, and I had contacted Bridget Scott, I had called and spoke with one of the Children's Services supervisors to ask if this was going to cause an issue because of the wording.
All right. Was there any indication from Children's Services if this would be an issue for them?
The conversation didn't go any farther than that. It was something that we were going to follow up on in the future. We had not had any problems, so I assumed it was going well because they had removed custody of other children with the same results, 2 unconfirmed positives.
Huh.
And then apparently it became an issue with baby Dylan.
It did.
Were you able to get that issue resolved to your satisfaction with Children's Services?
I was the social worker on Sunday is when Kristen got the call, and we did not release the baby. On Monday, I was the social worker, and I called Kelly Burgess, who was a supervisor at Children's Services. I was told by her that they cannot remove custody because of the unconfirmed positive, and that the baby would have to go home with the father. I questioned why that. I questioned that decision because it wasn't based upon decisions that have been made in the past.
Huh.
And ultimately, how was the placement resolved?
On Monday, Children's Services was waiting for us to get quantitative results of being either the cord that comes back or the urine, which we had sent out to the lab. And we're talking with their her management, I'm not sure who at Children's Services, to decide what to do. So a decision wasn't made on Monday. On Tuesday, the situation remained the same, where they were not wanting to remove custody, and the baby had been ready since Sunday to leave. And at that point, I asked them to please make a decision by a certain time, and I can't remember the time. And at that point, if a decision to remove the baby had not been made, that I would reach out to our county's juvenile judge, Lemons.
Okay.
You know, God bless this woman, these social workers that were really looking out, because they could smell, where there's smoke, there's fire. If it looks like a duck, it is a duck. They were not new to this. And suddenly Child Protective Services changes their, standards of procedure, their standard operating procedure. And they're like, look, we can't take anyone away for unconfirmed positives, when it's been explained to them that that's the same as a positive. They just had to change machines. Interesting.
Tuesday was, I believe, January 15th, to your recollection, is that correct? Did you receive any confirming results on the 15th?
On the toxicology?
Yes, ma'am.
We did. On that day, we got the cord results back.
And the results were confirmed at that point?
They were confirmed at that point.
So at that point, what happened with regard to baby Dylan?
I wasn't notified any from Children's Services after that. Toward the end of the day, I called the nursery and was told that the baby was going to foster care.
Okay.
Oh gosh, don't lose it, ma'am. I'm gonna lose it.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Tillman, Mr. Stratton,
Yes, Your Honor.
cross-examine the witness.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Person.
Good afternoon.
So, let me just clarify some things here. You presented a lot of information. I just want to sort of get a timeline on how things went.
Okay,
In November of 2018 is when you switched over to this new machine
correct,
that changed the positive to either a confirmed positive or an unconfirmed positive.
correct.
Okay, all right. And that Children's Services had been notified of that change.
I had a conversation with one of the supervisors.
And after that conversation, there had been other children who had been removed on unconfirmed positive tests, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And had there ever been an issue up until Dylan's removal of a problem with unconfirmed positive tests?
There had not been an issue.
Okay. Just generally, how many kids do you think were removed on unconfirmed positive tests?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay, all right. So, Lauren Johnson, have you had many interactions with her? Or is
I
this
have
the first-
had interactions outside of Children's Services.
Okay, is this your first interaction with her with Children's Services?
No,
No, okay, all right. Lauren Johnson said to you that we are not going to remove him on unconfirmed tests, is that correct?
that is not correct. Kristen Proctor talked to her on
Kristen
Sunday
Proctor.
night,
Okay, but she's relaying that info,
and she relayed that to me.
okay. Did you have to, I hate to use this word, and I apologize, but did you have to threaten Children's Services that you were going to call the juvenile court to get them to act on a removal of custody?
I had to assure that the baby was safe. Knowing that calling the judge is an option if we disagree, we have a protocol in place for that as well. I was going to do that if a decision hadn't been made to remove.
Okay, so you were going to call juvenile court if Children's Services did not remove custody?
Correct.
Okay, all right. But you did not make that call?
I did not because they removed custody.
Okay, they changed their mind, didn't they?
I don't know if they changed their mind. I don't.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Ms. Scott, you may cross-examine.
Good
You
afternoon.
two Muppets.
As your duties there at the hospital in this manager of social workers or in your social working role, did you have interaction with either Jessica or Daniel Groves yourself personally?
I did not.
Okay, so you did not get any intake information from them?
I did not.
Okay, and your worker, your social worker, Kristen Proctor France, she was the one that dealt with, mainly with also Children's Services Agency. Is that
She's the one
correct?
that dealt with Children's Services that night.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you know if she had any interaction with the parents in forming what you all had decided to do in this case?
She did not have interaction with the parents. We had another social worker that actually did the assessment.
Okay, and then if you did not have any interaction with either of the Groves and Kristen Proctor France did not have any interaction with the Groves, you would not have ascertained the information then from Mr. Groves that he could have taken the baby home alone and that Jessica Groves had someplace else to reside.
Ma'am, your client is a lying liar who lies, who allowed his wife to unalive their child. You standing on this, soapbox of he passed a drug test and he was, gonna make Jessica sleep outside. I mean, never was that going to happen. He was obviously the submissive person in the relationship. Jessica Groves was the harpy that would not stop. So, ma'am, just stop. This is a dumb hill to try to die on, okay?
I was unaware of CPS's plan for that, and I had not spoke to him. We have We worked together as a team with the social work department and the nurses and the staff there. And there was documentation indicating the interaction that the social worker that did assess them had. So I was able to refer to that. But I was not, to answer your question directly, I have not talked to Mr. Groves to.
Okay. So somehow that piece of the information got missed by your department, correct?
No,
It was not missed.
it was not missed. They simply didn't believe any of the words coming out of his mouth hole.
Was never told.
Although Lauren Johnson was communicating directly with Kristen Proctor France, you're saying that that was not relayed as well to
She
her?
did on that Sunday night is when we were told what the plan was.
Okay. And that it was for Mr. Groves to take the child home and Mrs. Groves would not reside in the residence.
Correct. And that, yes, she had done a drug test on him and that he had passed.
And so although you had that information on Sunday, you were still not recommending that the child would go home with Mr. Groves?
Correct.
By himself?
Correct.
Although Mrs. Groves would be outside of the residence?
Correct.
And were you aware that he had also passed the drug screen for children's services as well?
I cannot recall if that information was relayed to me that following day.
So the basis that Kristen Proctor France stated that she was very insistent upon the child not going home is because the baby had a positive screen and mom had a positive screen and the parents were married and would likely live together, correct?
Correct.
However, once you learned that
It's almost like the hospital had common sense. Again, ma'am, possibly not the best hill to die on, but go ahead. I'd like to see you plant this flag on this bullshittery, so go ahead.
mother would not be present or could not be present in the home, somehow that didn't change.
It
Your-
did not, like, we are a team at the hospital. So while I hadn't met with them personally, I went to the nursery. I had talked to nurses that had interactions with both of them, and they were able to verbalize their concern due to the interaction that they had with Mr. Groves, that this would not be a safe place for the baby to go.
But that was nothing that you obtained personally,
I did not obtain that information personally.
okay? And are these things that are documented in your assessment and report, these other conversations?
I documented that I had spoke with Arian Chantel Spears and the nurse manager, Teresa Ruby, who informed me further of the Children's Services plan, and that I had talked to them to gain information to warrant my calling Children's Services and persisting that the return of the baby to the home was not safe.
But did you document the specific conversations of these individuals about Mr. Groves' interaction with them? Not that they drew that conclusion, but their
Right.
specific conversations.
I did not directly document word for word what they told me.
And why not?
It wasn't something that, I don't know why I did not, but I did not.
But wasn't it a basis of your conclusion for your insistence that this child not go home with him?
It was,
Ma'am, your client helped put his baby in milk crates and down a well. But sure, get snippy at the child service that actually cared about the baby. Sounds like a great idea.
and due to my working many years as a social worker, I trusted what my team was telling me, and that it did not seem that that would be a good choice.
But it wasn't important enough to document what their conversations were.
I did not document it.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Ms. Scott?
No questions, thank you.
Damon, any redirect?
No redirect. Thank you, ma'am.
Is this witness free to go?
She is, as far as the state's concerned.
Yes, Your Honor.
Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Damon, you're free to go. State may call their next witness.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may. Ms. Hutchinson, is this your witness?
It is.
Do you want to proceed without Mr. Teeman, or do you want to give him a couple minutes to get back?
Judge, that's up to you.
Would you call your next witness?
Judge, the state would call Stephanie Jenkins.
Ma'am, will you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat. Ma'am, there is media in the courtroom here today. Do you object to your image being filmed or photographed during your testimony? Special Cindy, ma'am, you did say no. People in the back of the court. You did say you had no objection. People in the back of the courtroom. Special Cindy, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, if you would please introduce yourself to our jury and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Stephanie Jenkins, Jenkins. I work for Scioto County Help Me Grow as a service coordinator.
Okay. If you would explain to the members of the jury what Scioto County Help Me Grow is.
Help Me Grow has two different programs. We have a home visiting program, and we also have an early intervention program. And I'm the service coordinator for the early intervention program. We receive referrals from different agencies. CPS will refer children under the age of 3 that come in contact with them to us. We get referrals from doctors. Anyone can make the referral to us. We're a program from birth to age 3. We work with children who have suspected disabilities or some kind of delays. We have a team that will come in and work with the families, work with the parents and the children to help them get caught up and developmentally where they should be.
Okay. Where is Help Me Grow located?
Okay, just a little side pause, but I love this lady's shirt, and it looks very nice on her. Not lawyer eyeshadow, but the Help Me Grow lady. I think that color looks lovely on her, and she seems like a nice woman.
We are through South Central Ohio Educational Service Center in New Boston. Our actual office is in the Carousel Center here in Portsmouth.
Okay. And you said you've been there how long?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. And I think you kind of explained what you do as far as helping with other agencies and getting referrals. If you would explain to the jury how you became involved in the Dylan Groves referral.
We received a referral from Children's Services in Scioto County on January 25th. And that was just a typical referral that they refer when a child is involved with Children's Services.
Okay. And is participation in Help Me Grow as far as on your end, as far as you're concerned, voluntary?
Yes,
Okay. Can it sometimes be required by Children's Services?
yes,
Okay. And you said you received this referral from Children's Services?
yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, as part of the normal course of business there at Help Me Grow, do you guys maintain records of referrals and notes that you keep in regards to each referral?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Let me hand you what's going to be marked as State's Exhibit 8. Record reflection. Ma'am, if you could take a look at State's Exhibit 8. Can you identify this for the record?
Yes, this is the record that we have for Dylan.
Okay. And you said that referral came to you on what date?
Let me get back to it. Let's see, I received the referral on January 25th
Okay.
of 2019.
And did you bring a copy of those records with you also?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And are they the same records that we have here today?
Yes, they are.
So if you would explain to the members of the jury what efforts Help Me Grow made to make contact with this family.
First, when the referral came with Andrea Bowling listed as the foster parent. However, at that time, our rules and regulations says we have to try to contact the biological parent. So I attempted to call Jessica Groves at the number that was listed on the referral, and I got a voicemail saying she was not available. So then the next day, on the 31st, I attempted to call Children's Services to talk with the caseworker. I left a voicemail, and then Patricia got back with me.
Let me
And-
interrupt you just for a second.
Yeah.
On the referral, you said you contacted the number that was listed for the mother, Jessica Groves.
Yes,
What address was listed for the parents of Dylan Groves?
2241 Mount Hope Road, Otway, Ohio.
Okay. And there are some reasons listed for the referral, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. If you would explain those to what Children's Services submitted to you as their reason for referral.
Their reason was child is a victim of substantiated abuse or neglect. And then it says that Dylan was in protective custody. It also, reason for referral was child was born affected by illegal substance abuse or has been diagnosed with drug withdrawal symptoms by a physician resulting from prenatal drug exposure.
Okay. So you said you made an attempt to contact mom at the number that you were provided,
Yes,
and that attempt was unsuccessful.
correct.
Okay, and then thereafter you contacted a caseworker. Tell the
Yes.
members of the jury why you contacted that caseworker and what your plan was from there.
I contacted the caseworker. That's just our protocol to get some more information, to make sure that our contact information on the referral hadn't changed. Patricia did tell me that mom had the same, because on the address listed was Mount Hope Road, but she said that Daniel Groves had Dylan and his address was the same. And she had told me that mom wasn't staying there at the home with dad
And was she able to provide to you a phone number or phone contact information for Daniel Groves?
yes, she did.
Okay. And did you attempt to contact Daniel Groves?
On that day, she had gave me a phone number and had also let me know when I asked when she was going out for a visit. She was going out the very next day for a visit for what she said was a 7-day checkup. And so I just asked her if I could meet out there at the same time, and that way I could explain the program and go over it at that time. She said that would be fine. So I attempted to call Daniel to try to let him know that and talk with him about the program. I left a voicemail on his phone that I would be out there at the same time as Patricia. And if that did not work, I gave a number to call me back.
Okay. And ultimately that did not work out. Is that right?
That was correct.
Okay. But you also made further attempts to contact, before I get there, was your call ever returned by Daniel Groves?
No.
Okay. And then you
Of
made
course
additional
not.
attempts to contact Daniel Groves. Is that correct?
Yes, and by phone and by letter.
Okay. If you would give the jury those dates that you attempted to make contact and what type of contact you attempted to make.
I tried to contact him on February 1st because that was the day I was supposed to go out and meet Patricia at the home. But the school district was closed because of severe weather. And our policy is if the school district is closed, that we don't go out or we call and see how the roads are. So I did call Patricia at Children's Services and let her know that I would not be out there because of the weather, that I would reschedule that. And then I also called Daniel and left another voicemail saying that I would not be out that day because the day before I had called and had left a voicemail that I'd be
Okay. So that
out.
would be February 1st.
Yes.
Did you receive a call back from Daniel Groves?
No, I did not.
Okay. And then you called him again on February 4th and 5th.
And left voicemails both of those days.
Did you receive any call back from Daniel Groves?
No, I did not.
Okay. And it's my understanding
course
that
not.
at some point you also mailed letters to the family.
Yes, I did. When I could not reach him by phone, I contacted the caseworker again to see if there was any changes in the phone number to make sure I was calling the right number. And then I mailed it was on the 8th that she let me know that she had been out there and had got her, it was on the 8th that I talked to her and she had been out previously and got her vehicle stuck in the driveway. She did tell me at that time that she wouldn't suggest trying to make it out there. And then I spoke to Patricia again on the 19th of February, and she said that to see what happened with court, she said that placement remained at that time with Dad.
And did you also mail a letter on February 19th?
Yes, I did. I mailed a letter. I let the caseworker know that I was unable to reach him and that I was mailing the letter, and I mailed a letter to Daniel.
Okay. And then you attempted to make phone contact with him again on February 28th. Is that right?
Yes, and I got the voicemail again.
Ah,
And then again, you mailed a letter on March 1st.
Yes.
Okay. What ultimately happened with the referral on baby Dylan Groves?
Ultimately, he was exited from our program on March 11th because there was no contact with the family. I was not able to reach them, and they never returned calls or attempted to contact us back from the letters or the voicemails.
Okay. And what other
because they're
resources,
gross human beings.
can you connect the caretakers to if they are in fact cooperative?
Well, we have a home visiting program that we have someone that comes out to the home. They help work with the parents, work with the children doing activities, helping with the family to let them know developmentally what's expected. They do screenings and monitor the progress of the child. They can help refer to other programs.
What type of other program?
If a child needs WIC, or if they need Head Start when they're close to, we help transition the children from both programs at age 3 when they get older. Medical card, food stamps, anything,
Access.
any therapies, or if they need transportation, basically anything that they would need help with, we could try to access. Or if we don't have a way to help them, then we can get them to the proper people that can.
So there was no lack of help for these people. There were programs in place that had they used them, they could have gotten anything they needed, you know, had Jessica been, actually really ready to kick the habit. She had how many chances and how much therapy? I mean, these are wonderful people. All 3 of my sons had to go to Head Start because they were delayed in language. I kinda think it's because they had 3 older sisters who did all the talking for them, but, you know, the Head Start people are lovely. They come to your house once a week, they work with your child, they, get to know your family. I've had nothing but great things with Head Start, and these programs are there if you need them, but no, no. The Groves were like, "Nah, we can't take him there because you'd see that we were abusing him," or that Jessica was.
Can't help them.
But you never heard from anyone in this family regarding this baby?
No, I did not.
I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Mr. Stratton, you may cross-examine the witness.
Okay, Chuckles, let's see how you explain this one.
Mrs. Jenkins, good afternoon. I just have a couple questions, just to clarify things. That 7-day home visit that you had planned on going with Mrs. Kraft to, that was scheduled for the 4th of February, is that correct?
No, that was scheduled for February 1st.
February 1st?
Yes. And the 7-day, that's just what I was told by the caseworker, that they have to go out after they've been at the home for 7 days.
Okay. You contacted Mrs. Kraft and said you couldn't go
Because of the weather,
the weather?
Yeah,
Okay,
because the
all right.
school district was closed.
School district's closed, okay, all right. Did you follow up with Mrs. Kraft about going to any of the other visits?
No, typically we don't go to the visits at the same time as they do. If we need to contact the family and haven't been able to reach them, then we usually try to reach out to.
Okay, but did you at any time attempt another visit at the residence or plan on attempting another visit at the residence?
No, we typically try to reach them through calling, through text, or whatever method we can, as far as calling or mail.
So you never went out to the property?
No, I did not.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Ms. Scott, you may cross-examine.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Good afternoon. I believe that you stated in your early on in your direct testimony that this program is a voluntary program. Is that correct?
For us, Help Me Grow is a voluntary program.
Okay. And I know that you also asked that sometimes it could be a requirement of Children's Services. Do you know if it was a requirement of Children's Services in this case?
In this particular case, I'm not sure.
Okay. So from your perspective and your agency's perspective, this was a completely voluntary thing if this family wanted to participate in it, correct? From what you know?
From what I know.
Not for question,
Right.
but from what you know. Okay, thank you.
Further questions, Ms. Scott?
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hutchinson, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're free to go.
Thank you.
And we're back, and this is the testimony, or at least the start of testimony from Child Services employee, though I doubt she should be an employee anymore. Patricia Kraft, the woman who saw nothing, did nothing, and, well, waited until the kids never showed up for a jillion weeks before she called the alarm.
Please be seated. Back on the record, State of Ohio versus Daniel Groves and State of Ohio versus Jessica Groves, 13 CR 586 A and B. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is defense ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor. Thank
Yes,
you.
Your Honor.
Tina, you may call your next witness.
The Honor State of Ohio would call Patricia Kraft.
Ma'am, will you please raise your right hand for me, please? Ma'am, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Ma'am, please have a seat. Now, ma'am, we do have media in the courtroom today. Do you object to your image being filmed or photographed during your testimony?
Yes.
You do?
Your Honor, may we approach?
I can't imagine because you did such a wonderful bang up job. You should have your face plastered everywhere. I wouldn't have given you an option, but this is why I'm not a judge, unless you count Judge Dredd.
I was the ongoing caseworker.
Oh, crud. Sorry.
Now, if you would, this is a courtroom that has a lot of echoing, a lot of squeaks and groans, being an old courtroom. If you could you speak up like you're hollering across the room to somebody, all right?
Yes,
You have any education?
I have a bachelor's degree with a minor in social work,
Where did you receive your bachelor's degree?
Morehead State University.
Have you had any other kind of
Look, Moorhead, I'm not saying you need a refund, but you need a refund, okay?
training besides your degree training?
Excuse me,
Have you had any other training besides your degree?
I was a foster parent for 10 years.
Where are you currently employed?
Sauter County Children's Services,
If you could, where were you employed prior to Sauter County Children's Services?
Shawnee Family Health Center,
Anywhere else?
not at that time,
How long have you been with Children's Services Board?
a year and a half.
So June or July of 2018?
Yes,
And what is your title at Sauter County Children's Services?
ongoing caseworker.
Now, what does Sauter County Children's Services do?
We get referrals through our referring system, and an investigator or an intake worker will put the information in, and based on that information, it will determine whether it's screened in or screened out. That means if it's screened in, an investigator will go and check the situation out. If it's screened out, then it just don't get nothing done with.
Is Sauter County Children's Services considered a government agency?
Yes,
Okay. Are they under the umbrella of Job and Family Services?
yes.
And what is their main goal at Sauter County Children's Services?
Reunification with the family.
All right. Is it also designated Child Protective Services of
Yeah.
Sauter County?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've indicated the process, so to speak, of getting referrals and investigating and going from there. Is that something that you also have to go to court for?
Yes,
And what court do you generally go to when there's a removal action?
juvenile court.
Okay. Sauter County Juvenile Court specifically?
Yes,
So are you familiar with the juvenile court hearing process?
yes, sir.
Could you explain that hearing process?
The first hearing is a probable cause. At that time, we show the evidence of why the child was removed. Then it will be set for adjudication and a disposition later on.
Now, sometimes things happen before you can get into court that are of an emergency situation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And sometimes there's an initial one-sided hearing at that point. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
Okay. And they call that an ex parte hearing?
ex parte.
Okay. And then from there, they have a probable cause to confirm what happened in the ex parte hearing
Yes,
after everybody's given notice.
yes,
Okay. And adjudication is a fancy way of saying the hearing on whether or not there's an issue. Is that a fair statement?
yes,
And then disposition's like, what do we ultimately want to do with the child?
yes.
Okay. I'd like to direct your attention to a child by the name of Dylan Groves, and to a certain extent, his brother Daniel Groves Jr. Are you familiar with these children?
Yes,
How are you familiar with the Groves children?
I was the ongoing caseworker.
And what does ongoing caseworker mean?
I do the monthly checks and make sure that they're following what the case plan states. Make sure they're going to the doctor's appointments, drug treatment, parenting class, whatever is put in the case plan.
So the things you didn't do, Very good, very good. Just thought we'd, have a good idea of what you were supposed to have been doing, but didn't. The eye rolls and pettiness I have for this woman is akin to the parents because this woman saw nothing, did not what she was supposed to do. Again, at every single visit, she is supposed to take custody of that baby, undress them, and make sure that they don't have any marks, because parents and evil douchebags like these two will put a baby in some long sleeve stuff and try to hide what they're doing.
All right, so prior to you getting involved, there's another personnel at Children's Services that investigates the initial referral? Is that-
Yes.
Okay. And who was the investigator in this case?
Lauren Johnson.
All right. What is your understanding of, let me back up. When, specifically with regard to Dylan Groves, how did your agency become aware that there might be an issue?
It was referral. We got a referral through the hospital when Dylan was born.
Okay. And what was the process from there with that regard?
The investigator went to the hospital to check on the child. And then it was then determined that there was no kinship available. And that's when Dylan was placed in foster care.
All right. The children, the parents of Dylan Groves, are they in the courtroom here today?
Yes,
Could you identify them by name for the record?
Daniel Groves and Jessica Groves.
Could you point them out for the court, please?
Daniel's in the sage shirt and Jessica's in the cream colored hair with the burgundy shirt. Or purple. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, now when Children's Services becomes involved in a case, do they maintain records of that case and any activities involved in that case?
Yes,
Are those records kept in the ordinary course of Children's Services business?
it's just SACWIS through the computer system.
Okay. And they're kept in any kind of abuse, neglect, dependency case that comes through the door?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
For the record reflect, I'm handing the witness was from Martin States to the date. During the break, I went to opposing counsel. Make this. Okay. Make this 16.
16?
All right, I'm handing you was Martin States. It says it's 16. This is a microphone, so we don't want to slam anything on there. Could you take a look at those records? Ma'am, the records I've put in front of you, what do they appear to be?
They are documentation from each caseworker
Okay, with regard to whom?
to Dylan.
Would you check the back? There might be some in there for Daniel as well.
They are.
And it's going to get a little awkward because there was 2 sets of documentation provided. So I put some tabs there where there might be some overlap of some case plans. So don't remove those tabs yet. The defense counsel is okay with those being there, I assume. Those records appear to be accurate records of Children's Services records with regard to the Groves family.
Yes,
And are you familiar with these records?
yes.
As we go through your testimony, it may be easier for you to be able to refer to those records as we go through somewhat chronologically. So feel free to utilize those records. I might ask you for some specific dates as well. Okay. All right. You indicated that Children's Services had got involved in the case from a referral from the hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what hospital was that?
SOMC.
All right. And then you indicated that Ms. Johnson, Lauren Johnson, was the investigator that went to the hospital?
Yes,
And you indicated ultimately that Children's Services removed the child from the parents and took emergency custody. I'd like to go back before that to earlier on at the hospital. The records are there in front of you for reference. Initially, what was the Children's Services plan with regard to Dylan Groves?
Full stupidity. I mean, oh crap, I can't answer for her.
there was an activity log on 111 where caseworker Johnson spoke with Mr. Groves and stated that he had not known that Jessica's drugs use until they were coming to SOMC for Dylan to be delivered. Mr. Groves stated that Daniel Jr. and Dylan are his top priority and that he would do what he needed to do in order to keep them safe. Caseworker Johnson did a safety plan with Daniel Groves until lab came back with the results of the drug scheme. Jessica is out of the home and there is no unsupervised contact.
Okay. And I know it's in there, but I'm going to, for the sake of ease of access, of Mark State's Exhibit 9, Your Honor, it's been showed to the prison counsel. Ma'am, I know this is part of this record, but could you identify this for the court?
That is a safety plan.
Is that the safety plan that you referenced in the Children's Services activity log that was initiated by Lauren Johnson?
Yes,
And if we could, see if you can read it from up here on the board. That's a horrible copy, and I apologize. See if we can make it read it. Okay, ma'am, I don't know if you can read that or not from there. Can you see the case name at the top?
no.
Okay. I'll hand it back to you. Let's let you read it. This lighting's not great. All right. Ma'am, what's the safety plan you have there in front of you? What's the case name at the top?
Jessica Groves.
Okay. And as you have that there, I need you to really explain what's in that safety plan. So could you explain line by line what we're seeing, what you're gonna be reading from?
Okay, it says identify the safety threats and serious harm from which the children needs protection. And it states that Jessica's substance abuse was reported.
Okay.
Then it goes to the action steps and it says describe the activities necessary to protect the children. And it says Jessica must get a drug and alcohol assessment and sign a release form for us to get copies of everything that she went.
Okay. Let's see if we have it in here. It's in here.
God, could they look any more like lumps on a stupid log?
The second action step would be Jessica is not to be left unsupervised with either child until further notice.
Okay, so the first step was that she wasn't going to live there,
Yes,
and then the second step was that she was going to not be left unsupervised with either child.
yes. Then it says who will be responsible for the activities, and Daniel Groves would be the one responsible.
Okay, and on that, are there signatures at the bottom?
Yes,
Okay, so let me back up. So we've got who will be responsible for the activities, that's on there.
mhm.
And then there's explain how each activity will control the occurrence of serious harm.
The children will be protected.
Okay, and that, the person responsible for that was to be Daniel.
Yes.
Okay, and how will the
Well, I
activities be
can-
monitored?
Okay, so CPS's grand idea was to let this ding dong, let's roll the record back, as Daryl Brooks says. Let's run the record back. This absolute lump of a moron human being, allegedly, was going to be in charge of safety. One look at him, and I would not put a dog in his custody, okay? Like I said, I have no chill with these people, but I have less chill with the state because what kind of stupidity is this crap?
Yes,
Okay, so let me back up. So we've got who will be responsible for the activities, that's on there.
mhm.
And then there's explain how each activity will control the occurrence of serious harm. What's-
The children will be protected.
Okay, and that, the person responsible
By
for
that
that was the lead
dingleberry?
game.
Seriously.
Okay, and how will the activities be monitored?
Home visit, and it was to be done weekly, and it was to be done by her, Lauren Johnson.
Okay. And then at the bottom, what do we have here, the signatures was?
The first one is Daniel Groves, the second one is Jessica Groves, and the caseworker's signature.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. You can put that back in that folder. So at this point, initially, there is not going to be a removal, but there is a safety plan for this child with his father.
Correct.
All right. And that involved weekly contact, drug treatment for mom, and supervised visits, but she had to remain outside the home unless supervised for visits.
Right.
Okay. What was the understanding of Children's Services with regard to dad's employment at that time?
At that time, he informed that he had 6 months leave at Rural King.
Something no one ever checked up on until after baby Dylan was dead. And you're telling me, look, Rural King is, a retail store. You're telling me he had 6 months of leave built up? Try again. Try again. No one thought, "Hey, we should probably check this out." Nope. Why would we do that?
Okay. And if you would, we're going to look at the activity log report, starting, I believe, with January 11th. Are you there?
Yes,
Okay. And this activity log report, is this part of the Children's Services record you have in front of you?
yes.
The business records, Children's Services. Who did this January 11th activity log report? Let me back up. What is an activity log report?
Activity log is what we do as a caseworker, like when we go out and meet the family, what we discuss, what they discuss, and if they need any assistance of everything. We also check for the safety and the basic needs of the children.
Okay. So at the very beginning of the case, whoever from Children's Services is there is going to start logging their activities on the case.
Yes,
Okay. So in this case, we have a log from January 11th of 2019, correct?
yes.
What's it entitled?
It entitles Ms. Johnson speaking to the nursing staff.
Okay. What is the subject of this? Why don't you go ahead and, if there are no objections, read that activity log report.
We'll leave that up there on that plastic and then lean forward. That might help the court reporter get a good reporting. We're picking up your voice.
Caseworker Johnson met with SOMC nursing staff on 1/11/19 and asked for them to explain what unconfirmed meant. SOMC nursing staff explained that unconfirmed meant positive, but they are waiting for lab work to make sure that the test is conclusive. Caseworker Johnson met and spoke with Jessica Groves, and she stated that she realized she was pregnant in October when she felt the baby moving. Jessica stated that she has used heroin for about 6 months and continued to use until she found out she was pregnant because she did not want her nor the baby to withdraw. Jessica,
To use after she found out, she continued to use after she found out she was pregnant, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Jessica stated that she has not used in the home around her son or husband and stated that her husband, Daniel, did not know of her drug use until the evening she delivered Dylan.
Okay. And does it go on from there on the next page?
Do any of these people have children? Because that sounds like a bald-faced daggone lie. No one had critical thought over here. They're like, "Nope, she done said that she never did it around her husband. Her husband doesn't look like a freaking tweaker." Y'all.
Stage.
Yes. Caseworker Johnson spoke with Daniel Groves as he stated that he had not known of Jessica's drug use until they were coming to SOMC for Dylan to be delivered. Daniel stated that Daniel Jr. and Dylan are his top priority and that he would do what he needs to in order to keep them safe. Caseworker Johnson did a safety plan with Daniel Groves until the lab work came back with the results of the drug screen. Jessica is out of the house and there is no unsupervised contact.
Sure, Jan.
Now, did Daniel, according to this note, was there any logging of information that the reason there was no prenatal care was because she was continually high?
There's no documentation to that.
Why have full and complete documentation? You're only, child safety.
And then, so in this period of time, we're talking about January 11th. Dylan was born January 10th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is still in the first few days at the hospital. There was indicia in the next note of a drug test or a drug screen for Daniel. Do you see that note? Kind of right in the middle of the page there, face to face.
1/13 of 2019.
Okay. And what's that say?
Says caseworker Johnson received a call on this date and time. Caseworker Johnson spoke with social work Kristen Proctor, who stated that Sauter County Children's Service Board needed to take custody of Dylan due to unconfirmed on the drug screens, meaning a positive. Caseworker Johnson explained that unless there was paperwork stating that they were 2 positive screens, Children's Services had nothing to be able to remove Dylan. Caseworker explained that once lab work came back, a decision would be made.
Okay, so at that point, it's documenting there was some kind of misunderstanding between Children's Services and SOMC as to the drug testing. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. Now, prior to that, on the page before, you referenced a drug screen for Daniel by the caseworker. You recall seeing that? That'd be on page 2 of 89. Well, those page numbers might be different, but that'd be after the January 11th note. There's another note face to face.
Yes, this lump looks like he is totally ready to take care of an
Jury, how's Hutch been
infant.
treating you down there in the jury room? You doing all right? Should I keep him on a little longer and? Oh, yeah. At least the less stress the week.
Oh, this judge, look, this jury is going to be exposed. We have not yet heard the medical examiner. They have not yet seen the photos, but this judge knows what's coming, unfortunately. And good on him for being a good judge and trying to be personable and kind and really take care of his jury because uh, honestly, this is the biggest fear I have being on a long call list for jury duty is that, I'm gonna get a kit case, and watching these on YouTube means that I don't have to see the pictures. I don't have to live with that every day of my life, and this jury will. These prosecutors will. Now, it doesn't seem to bother these 2 human lumps of excrement right up "Yeah," but I imagine Chuckles and Blondie also have, nightmares from this story or from this case. So it really is not only did these 2 despicable human beings unalive their baby, but they caused pain and tragedy to untold amount of people.
counsel, you want me to send the jury out for a break? Will you figure that out, or? Might as well wait in the jury room. At this time, remember my earlier admonition to you, do not discuss this case amongst yourselves, do not permit anyone to discuss it with you in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on this case. So it's finally submitted to you. Hopefully this will be a short break, and we'll be right back to finish the testimony. Ms. Kraft, you're welcome to sit right there. But I will advise you that you're not to discuss the substance of your testimony with anyone until you've been released. You understand? All right, thank you. We had another lengthy meeting, and they came into my chambers and we had another lengthy meeting while you were in the jury room.
Oh, no.
It appears that the Children's Services records have come in multiple groups, has been provided through discovery in multiple groups. To ensure that all of the lawyers are looking at the same groups at the same time, we are going to recess this trial at this time, which is a little earlier than I wanted to. However, I think that would be to ensure that all sides have access to those records at the same time. I have reviewed the discovery from the state in this matter for the record. I do find that copies of those records have been provided to the defense. But since they're in multiple binders, I want to get those consolidated into one group so we're all talking about the same thing at the same time. So at this time, we are going to take the evening recess. Now, we had some discussion in chambers. Ms. Kraft is here. She has started her testimony. As I understand, the state's next witness has rearranged his medical schedule so he can be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. He may or may not be able to be here later tomorrow morning. What is the defense's position on allowing that witness to testify and then taking up Ms. Kraft's direct examination where we left off this afternoon? Mr. Stratton?
No objection, Your Honor.
Ms. Scott?
Your Honor, we would have no objection. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Kraft, what that means for you, unfortunately, is you're going to have to come back tomorrow. Do you want her here at 9 o'clock, Mr. Chamberlain?
I think that would be safe, Your Honor.
The doctor can be here later in the morning. We'll take back up at 9 o'clock with your testimony. If not, you will have to wait a little while, but we'll put you on. You intend to call her back immediately after his testimony.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, I talked to you a little bit earlier, but we took the recess a little harder because we're going to take an evening break since you've not yet concluded your testimony. You're not allowed to talk to anyone about the substance of your testimony until you've come back tomorrow and concluded what you have to say in this case. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. I am going to excuse you. I'm going to direct you to be back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, 5 till 9 if you would. Ladies and gentlemen.
So there you go. There is the conclusion of day one. I found it after I thought I wasn't going to find it. You know, my computering skills are all over the place, as per usual, but we have at least gotten day one and part of day two sorted. And I am finding that I have less than chill. So, new platform in Mo for president. Should you write me in? I'm just saying. The moment I get into the president Oval Office, every single DHS and family services will have to do a thorough accounting of the children that they have lost, unalived, or, just let back into really shitty situations. This would be my raison d'etre, other than, hand jobs. But, this is probably why I won't go into presidency for any number of a multitude of reasons. But if I had it in my power, I would make sure that all of these places were audited. And then I would yeet most of the people that weren't doing their damn jobs. Because the fact that crap like this is allowed to go on is kind of beginning to tick me off. Between this and the Harmony Montgomery case, seems like Family Services gives two giant poos about children, but that's just my opinion. And as I always tell you guys, I don't tell you what to think, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments. I am simply a person that wears wigs on the internet, so feel free to disagree with me at any point. But it really does rile me up. It frosts my flakes. It burns my biscuits when you have, child services, protective services, not protecting any daggone thing. It's almost like it's in their job description, but who am I to say such things? Any hoozle, if you like this, please like and subscribe, all the YouTubey things. Share if you think someone else would like it. If not, thank you for joining me and have a wonderful day. All right. Bye, guys.